So
this is so hard to wrap your mind around. So just get it. So the feds are not the feds, and the white American patriots on the street protesting for their country are the feds. So, yeah.
Well, what I said was these people are suspicious that Patriot Front guys are feds because they are fit and carrying an American flag. But it never occurs to them that the guy that's actually being sworn in as the new head of the FBI is a fed. And that's the thing here that really is troubling, because this isn't just about, Indian brown guy as the head of the FBI, and this isn't about, conservatism, Inc., Fed jacketing, Patriot Front again. I mean, what else is new? The real thing that is dangerous about what we have here is this is about the FBI's redemption arc in the minds of white America and the system generally, the anti-white system. The whole thing right now is to redeem them and build up trust again in the system when it was at an all-time low. And these comments reveal that.
It's working.
I think this is a real serious danger, and we're going to go through it. There's a precedent for this, where white people, their opinion of the feds was at an all-time low.
All-time low. After January 6th, after the, war on domestic extremists,
whites,
aka patriotic white, the war on whites, the obvious war on whites that happened, that started during Trump's first term and crescended during Biden's term. Trust of the FBI and at the system by whites was at an all-time low, abysmal. And they needed to do a course correction here. They were like, okay, the whites are quitting the system. They're quiet quitting. They're not engaging. It's getting to a point where white people are just anti-American at this point, because American is becoming synonymous with, BLM and, So they said, okay, let's course correct. Let's get people trusting the system again. Let's get people bought back into the system. And you would think, it would be so blatantly obvious that people would be like, well, hold on now, but it appears to be working.
George Creel was a master of public relations. Creel was the head of something called the Committee on Public Information, which basically was a propaganda organization in World War I. Creel started off as a journalist in Missouri. He actually worked with Woodrow Wilson on his 1916 campaign based on the slogan, "He kept us out of war." We had actually spent 3 years staying out of the war. So suddenly in 1917, when we entered the war, one of the very first things that Wilson did was bring George Creel on to shift public opinion in support of the war. He had to convince the American people that this was a war worth fighting and that this was America's war. That's a hard thing to communicate. From the moment that the war broke out, there were posters everywhere. There were images everywhere you looked, very deliberately shaping public opinion. World War I is this moment where propaganda is used in a very heavy-handed way, but George Creel did it brilliantly.
And then this was the other interesting thing. Mm-hmm. Most important, Creel had been a conspicuous critic of big business and of pro-business propaganda in the years directly preceding the war. In a political milieu in which skepticism about a capitalist's war was rife, who better to place at the helm of a propaganda ministry than a man whose anti-big business credentials were immaculate?
Right. It was like he was put there with the intent of tricking the public to get them to trust the system enough to go to war.
Right.
That is sinister.
It's extremely sinister. And they did so many creepy things. I mean, we were reading about the posters and, of course, the 4-Minute Men, where they would have all these they had like 15,000 little mini orators around the country who would stand up in movie theaters and places and give these 4-minute little
speeches, pro-war speeches. And people were like, oh, and like captivate the audience and like bully people if they like dissented. And I was saying, this is literally what Twitter is. I mean, Twitter is a platform filled with 4-minute men, except they're just doing it like 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And a lot of them aren't even knowing that they're doing it, or they're not getting paid for it, but they're just, useful tools to sell this new administration and to sell whatever is going to be done in this administration.
A lot of the Stars and Stripes kind of flag-waving liberty stuff that people think is as American as apple pie was really a product of the war hysteria of the First World War and the top-down creation of this Ministry of Propaganda, the Creel Committee, the CPI, that really the men behind it and were the most influential people were these absolutely devious Jews like Walter Lippmann and Edward Bernays.
Yeah. The Stars and Stripes have become the symbol. I mean, they literally were intended to be the symbol to get white men to go die.
Against Germany, specifically against Europe and European culture and European people. And again, there was Hoover with the FBI doing it. There was the Justice Department, which went all the way back to the Civil War and Reconstruction. So, but they got this guy who had these anti-business. Yeah, he's different.
He's different. He's one of us.
You can trust him because he is an investigative journalist who has decades of experience fighting against the influence of big business. So this war is not big business's war, and it's a war that the progressives and the populists can get behind.
This is a different kind of war.
Right.
And oh my God, it was the worst war ever. Wow. It's like, oh, gee, you think that they can't do this again? You think that, this time it really is different. This time they really are fighting for us. Trump is fighting for us. Trump is an organic figure. I have to point out that Trump has direct ties to J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI and the Jewish mob and everything, because Roy Cohn, his greatest mentor, if you watch the Apprentice movie that just came out, it's a great movie. He got everything he knew and was basically made by this criminal Jew lawyer named Roy Cohn. And Roy Cohn was literally in bed with J. Edgar Hoover.
Well, and with his circle of
it was like Hoover, Cohn, and like this other Jew. They were like the big three. Cohn weaseled his way in at a very young age. So Trump literally has direct lineage to this fundamentally Jewish, anti-white FBI department.
Yeah.
Besides everything, besides the fact that, his first term and everything. So, I mean, think a little bit. Do you think that there might be a possibility that this new organic administration clearing out the deep state, making the deep state based in red-pilled, Elon Musk and everything, you think there might be a possibility that this is just like the same thing? This might just be a continuation of the same thing. They're just marketing it differently.